It's going to be a particularly strange day. What I was planning on doing today was documenting the protest here at the statue of Nelson Mandela. There's going to be lots of people protesting on what essentially they're calling a white genocide in South Africa, like the killing of white farmers and the radical left in Africa who are behaving very much like the radical right in a way. They want to get rid of the white farmers and steal their land, essentially, appropriate their land without any compensation. But there's something weird happened yesterday, as you may be aware, with Tommy Robinson. So today there's going to be a protest, a hashtag Free Tommy protest, which is completely unscheduled, apparently happening at 3 o'clock at Whitehall, which is in a few hours' time, so we've got a little bit of time. People like to have their picture taken with Nelson Mandela. It's like, it's real doublethink. You know, people think that he was some kind of people's hero. The hidden history of Nelson Mandela, of course, is that he was essentially a terrorist, and he was responsible for the death of many men, women, and children, innocent civilians, during a sort of terrorist bombing campaign in South Africa, where they were blowing up, embassies, shopping centres, cinemas, that sort of thing. But the general population don't seem to realise. It's difficult to know whether people will actually turn up for the Tommy Robinson protest, which, to be honest, I have a little bit of a problem with. Only because, I have a problem with protesting anyway. I don't think it really does anything at all. And people keep repeating online things like, we'll go down to Whitehall to Theresa May's house. But Theresa May does not live at Downing Street. Number 10 Downing Street is Theresa May's office. It's like the Queen doesn't live at Buckingham Palace, it's the Queen's office. The Queen lives at Windsor Castle. The Prime Minister lives at Chequers. At the weekend, she'll go to Chequers unless she's going off on some international trip. But Theresa May is not going to be here. It is not her house, it is her office. On a Monday to Friday, she might be here, which is why protests are not allowed generally to go on a Monday to Friday, certainly large protests. Because there is supposedly going to be a protest here at 3 o'clock from Tommy Robinson supporters. And here's the main problem I have with it. It's not organised. And I'm not one to say that we should have, we need somebody's permission to demonstrate. But in terms of demonstrating on a Saturday, there are people who have already organised protests outside Downing Street on a Saturday. That's why you essentially have to book your protest. When you just spontaneously say, let's all meet up and protest at Downing Street at 3 p.m, if there's more of you than there are of the people who originally were planning to do a demonstration here, then you have just basically limited their freedom of speech. So essentially I think that might be what's going on today. There is no way, of course, of knowing if anyone will turn up unless we do the time tunnel. So let's do the time tunnel at, say, 3:30 or something. Is there anyone here? Of course, I went through the social media feeds on people discussing Tommy Robinson's arrest, and it's a really big irony because they're calling it Orwellian. What they don't realise is that the Orwellian thing of a doublethink is actually the disparity between the actual situation and what they think, or maybe they're told, the situation is. Because they are saying that Tommy Robinson was arrested because the state want to censor him, and that the state are, or rather they're saying, this is a demonstration that Britain is broken. I want to now demonstrate to you that that is not correct, and hopefully, if you're a Tommy Robinson supporter, I'm not asking you to stop your support for him. I'm just asking you to face the reality of the situation. So I'm going to start with reading to you the wording of what contempt of court in terms of publication actually means. Strict liability publication contempt. Section 1 of the Contempt of Court Act 1981 sets out and defines the strict liability rule. This provides that it is a contempt to publish any matter which creates a substantial risk of serious prejudice or impediment to the course of justice in legal proceedings, irrespective of the intention behind the publication. So, because nobody really knows what the restrictions are in terms of like what I might say about this, I'm going to just talk hypothetically. Let's just talk about a hypothetical man. Say 1 year ago, a man was found in contempt of court because he was broadcasting from outside of an active courthouse where a case was going on, and he was attempting essentially to identify the defendants and so-called interview them. And during that broadcast, he was insinuating that they were guilty before they had actually been found guilty. That's what would bring you into contempt of court. Let's now say that about 1 year later, whilst on a suspended sentence for contempt of court, a man goes to an active courthouse while a case is going on, before the people have actually been found guilty or not guilty. They were broadcasting a live stream videoing the defendants as they went in, and the wording that they were using was prejudicial, meaning they were sort of insinuating that they were guilty even before they had been found innocent or guilty. Live streaming the broadcast, I mean, a jury member could be sitting in the court on their lunch break, flicking through the internet, watching interesting live streams. They may come across a live broadcast from outside that courthouse where somebody is insinuating, without being privy to all of the evidence, and basically just insinuating that somebody is innocent or guilty based on prejudice. That is contempt of court, and it is very open and shut. Also, in the wording of what is and what is not contempt of court, there's a section on risk where it says, risk is judged at the time of publication. The longer the gap between publication and the trial, known as the fade factor, the less substantial risk of serious prejudice is likely to be. The absence of actual prejudice resulting from publication does not present it from being contempt, but may be relevant in deciding whether there was a substantial risk of serious prejudice. The fade factor in a live stream is non-existent. That is about as serious as it gets. If you're a TV production company and you are videoing some footage from outside an active court case which you don't publish for maybe 1 year, then that is not contempt of court. Live streaming has no fade factor at all. It is the most serious breach of the rules. And this hypothetical man, you would have thought, would know that. Can you see what I'm getting at? One of the things that, well, if Tommy Robinson supporters are into preserving Western values of freedom, democracy, it should also be the preservation of the principle of having access to a fair trial. You are innocent until proven guilty. Even if you think somebody is guilty of something, or you even know that somebody is guilty of something, they still have to be given access to a fair trial. And prejudicial behaviour live streamed from outside of an active courthouse is illegal for a reason, because it prohibits people from having a fair trial. In fact, people in the past who are almost obviously guilty of something have walked free out of courthouses because people have prejudiced the jury. So really, Tommy's actions, you could say, are themselves dissolving the structure of what he says he's wanting to preserve. Can you see all the tree pollen coming off the trees? Oh my god. I don't think he's really picking it up, but just had word that the protest has actually changed destination. It's now going to be held in Victoria Tower Gardens, which is here. I mean, I'm a tour guide. I know where it is, but will anyone else? I've got a feeling that this is going to turn into a damp squib, especially if people cannot find it. In a way, I'd like to stay up there at Downing Street, because I guess most people are going to be turning up at Downing Street. But I can't be in two places at once. I think the organisers are going to be down here, speeches are going to be made down here. And bearing in mind what I have taught you already about the actual legal ramifications of what Tommy Robinson did, hopefully we will be able to see the crucial errors in how the organisers will be communicating with the public. Just wait. Oh, action. A few people have turned up. And they're off somewhere. Let's go check it out. Kicking off. The police was shouting that, in case you couldn't hear it, the police were shouting that this is an illegal assembly or something, because they're not supposed to be here. That guy's going to get arrested. And they're all going to Downing Street, I guess. What do we want? Free speech. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? The ability to prejudice a jury. When do we want it? Now.
Everyone watched the video. Has everyone seen the video?
Yeah.
Has anyone seen any problems with the video?
No.
Right, so it's time to unite, come together and stand together and hope that this man can be released a lot sooner than he is going to be released.
I just heard somebody say that if you want to really know what's going on, watch Opinionated European, which was that person there. And I watched one of her videos earlier on, and she said the protest is now going to be at Victoria Tower Gardens, which is at the base of Big Ben. No, it's at the base of the Victoria Tower.
The fellow police are doing it.
I don't mind you demonstrating, but please do not touch me. Okay?
Don't sit there.
That's the buffer that makes the first one, isn't it? Mate, seriously, you're intoxicated. I'll be nicking you for sexual public order, drug disorder if you carry on the way. Okay? Make it educate. If you want to demonstrate, do it in an educated fashion, please.
These people are all free and independent human beings that have their own human rights. Freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech!
Freedom
of speech up to a point. You're breaking the law by doing it. You've been given the opportunity
Tommy,
to protest on that side of the road. You're breaking
the law.
You break the law every day.
What law are we breaking? We've got a right to peaceful
What law
protest. No one's caused any trouble.
But you don't have the right to obstruct the highway. 137 of the Highways Act. Willfully obstructing a highway.
And statutes are criminal and treasonous against the people, according to common law.
I'm not engaging with any of this. All I'm engaging with
Because he's a policy enforcer. Right, the police officers just told me that unless they individually speak to every single one of you and tell you what you're doing wrong, basically they can't move you. It's your choice. It's your choice if you want to go. But to be honest, I'm not going anywhere. And the reason is because there's no answers. We've had no answers.
I mean, I don't want to I've got a bit of sunburn, so I don't want to just slap my face really hard, but I mean, they were talking like we will not be moved, we will not be moved, the police are coming around individually to get us to move, but we will not move. And then all of a sudden, unfortunately I didn't capture it, that's why they're all suddenly leaving, so they went, shall we just go to Parliament Square instead, he said on the megaphone. Everyone's like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Now everyone's like, got up and they're going to Parliament Square to continue. Just the one thing from it, I think, was, did you hear when the guy shouted, you all watched Tommy Robinson's video talking about the live stream outside the court that got him into trouble. You all watched Tommy Robinson's video? And they were like, yeah. And he said, did you see him do anything wrong? And they shouted, no. They didn't see him do anything wrong. They didn't see him or perceive him doing anything wrong, but he did actually do something wrong. It's quite clear that he prejudiced through publication, or he possibly prejudiced a jury through publication. And bearing in mind that court case that he possibly prejudiced was put together over a series of so many years, he could have essentially destroyed the entire case single-handedly. So yes, Tommy Robinson did something wrong. He broke the law. In fact, in terms of what the wording is for contempt of court through publication, it's an open and shut case.